Right now, specifically with COVID, we're really looking at, how do we create a remote training curriculum where we can engage with nurses and physicians and get them trained on things. What advice would you have for us in terms of the best ways to engage with a dispersed audience?
I think you want to provide multiple ways for interaction. So at the same time, once you establish that, try to keep consistency because people can only learn so many things at once. So switching up the ways in which you do things on a weekly basis when you're doing a new training program is not a good idea in online education. So trying to provide a rhythm and consistency for people while allowing for interaction that's both asynchronous as well as potentially synchronous or collective. And then use simulation, to really engage people in asking questions from different angles, of the problem. Give them different pieces of the solution, see what they come up with, and then have them compare those kind of solutions to see whether or not people came up with different and successful answers or not based on the way in which they answered the problem. Because each one of us, especially when we're isolated, tend to enter the problem somewhat differently. And it's valuable to see how other people start. And so mapping thinking process really is actually quite thoughtful in that space.
How important do you think that problem solving and then that peer-to-peer work is to remote education and learning?
Oh, I think it's critical. Otherwise, you get a lot of regurgitation and a lot of memorization, and you lose a sense of community and belonging. I mean, it is very, very hard to retain online learners long term. And we got to a point in Arizona when I was doing fully online undergrad, where if you got through the first semester, you were likely to come back the next year at like an 85% rate, which is unbelievably high.
Wow.
In online ed. And the only way you do that is by building community. And the other thing then is you shouldn't isolate that learning from other community sorts of things. So what types of outreach programs or connections are you making? Do you have a little drip campaign with an email and a call to action that's beyond the learning itself? Just to touch base, how do you respond to the realities of kind of individual lives and so forth in this time? I mean, it's nuts, right? If you've got kids or you're caring for parents, this time is just crazy to try to think about how people are trying to adapt.